Have you ever heard about the big flood that wiped out an entire civilization? Yes, I'm talking about Noah's story. For sure, that's the story our parents read to us before we went to bed. In the story, the water level becomes incredibly high, even reaching the people on the mountaintops. The flood, according to common belief, was sent by the deity as a punishment for the civilization that broke the law. Many people died in the event, and only the select few managed to survive. That was a horrifying yet guilt-inducing situation. But what can science say about it? Well, according to science, even if we consume all of the water on the planet, it cannot be used to drown humanity to death. But what if a terrible force entered the planet that caused a big flood, completely sweeping away everything in its path? Could mankind make it? Or will the fate of Noah be destined for a select few once again in history? Today, we'll talk about something related to this. This is going to be really interesting. So sit back and relax as we go on a new adventure. On December 26, 2004, just 100 miles west of the island of Sumatra, the Indian plate, which was previously a part of the supercontinent Gondwana, had been compressing, straining, and pushing the early Eurasian plate up from a depth of 19 miles with increasing strength. When the increasing pressure was released, the seafloor hurled upwards and curved up for approximately 1,000 miles as the ancient massive plates shifted relative to one another. The location of the disaster includes the Pacific Ring of Fire, and as we all know, more than 80% of the world's greatest earthquakes happen in this region. However, during this time, there was no technology that can be used to detect a tsunami in the Indian Ocean or to inform coastal residents, so carefree vacationers continued to enjoy sunbathing on golden sand, playing and diving into the extraordinarily beautiful ocean without knowing that a tragedy would happen very soon. In no time at all, high-level water came out from the epicenter toward the coast by this massive earthquake. The total energy released by these waves, according to Tad Murdy, ex-president of the Tsunami Association, is 5 megatons. This is equivalent to the total power of all the ammunition used in the Second World War. It was worthy to note, however, that the height of the wave was only 20 inches in the first few hours after the shake. This means that when a ship is in the broad ocean, it would not be able to feel the shake. But things changed as the wave slowed down in the shallow coastal water. Its height would climb rapidly with each passing instant. Unfortunately, the moment residents and tourists were aware of the tsunami, the wave's height was already 50 feet. The huge wave struck the beaches of Indonesia, Sri Lanka, India, and Thailand, and other nations unexpectedly. People were not prepared when the huge waves swept the beaches. Some were even sunbathing under the sun, napping in their rooms, while others were having their breakfast. Without mercy, the massive wave swept the chairs and umbrellas that are stalled on the beach easily in the first seconds. Then the water flowed into the neighboring areas, crushing roads and bridges, tossing automobiles, and wrecking man-made metal and concrete. It was no use even if you were a swimmer, because tell me, how could you manage to swim in the flood of crashed cars, toppled palm trees, twisted metal, and dead bodies? Those who were fortunate enough to survive the big wave were not really fortunate, since the majority of them died as well within the first hour of the disaster. This is due to lack of medical care. Those who fell from trees, for example, and shattered their arms were left injured and unable to recover. It was only a day later that the people were able to receive their first help from rescuers. It was reported that 300,000 people drowned along the coast or were killed by the wave. Some of the bodies were never even discovered, and many people assumed they were buried at the bottom of the sea when the water retreated. Yes, it was really a terrible experience. Have you considered what would happen if the source of the tsunami was something other than an earthquake? At this time, we'll be discussing the historic crater Chicxulub. Chicxulub crater has a diameter of 112 miles, and its depth is up to 12 miles. The crater was created by an asteroid more than 6 kilometers in diameter that slammed into the Yucatan Peninsula about 67 million years ago. The impact of the asteroid was measured at 100 teratons, which is equivalent to 1 million earthquakes in the Indian Ocean. Visualize a tsunami with a height of 160 to 330 feet. What do you think will happen? Well, it's tough to visualize the effects of it, but given the tsunami's height, it has the potential to wash over continents from one end to the other. But one thing is certain, those who can make it out alive will be few, and even if they do, the destruction they will witness, the anguish, and the loss they will experience will leave them absolutely devastated. Now consider what would happen if the asteroid collided with an open ocean, such as the Mariana Trench. Will it be fatal, or will nothing happen? However, before we go any further, if you've made it this far into the video, you're clearly enjoying it. Give it a like, subscribe so you don't miss anything, and let us know what you think in the comments section. The Mariana Trench's depth is exactly the same as the asteroid's size. If an asteroid were to hit it, humans will likely face the dinosaurs' fate. Yes, that would be truly humanity's end. At this time, you must understand that a tsunami is a massive catastrophic calamity, and we can feel its effects as soon as it strikes. But thanks to the modern world, humanity now has the ability to help itself. For example, we could create a system that could predict tsunamis before they reach coastal communities, giving people enough time to evacuate. However, as the water level rises for an extended period of time, or perhaps permanently, there may be more terrible flood situations. In the year 2015, the water level in the oceans around the world is rising quicker than expected, according to NASA scientists. They even predicted that there's going to be a rise in the water level approximately 3 feet in the next decade. If the warning continues, we have no choice but to accept that glaciers at our planet's poles will turn to massive flooding, making the global ocean level increase. Take a look at this map of the continents, then consider the Asia continent. If the scenario occurs, we can see the enormity of the disaster. The ocean will sweep up big cities like Kolkata and Shanghai, which have a combined population of approximately 19 million people. The true disaster, on the other hand, will come in heavily populated areas of Southeast Asia, while territories with more than 1 billion people will be submerged, such as China, Bangladesh, and Indonesia. Furthermore, because the land would be flooded, new and unexpected issues would also arise. There will be less land available for agriculture, and humanity will encounter difficulties obtaining basic food. New ocean expenses would increase atmospheric humidity due to evaporation, and persistent rains would flood the continent's densely populated cities. However, the good news is that this tragedy had the potential to unfold over decades or even centuries, and by that time, we will almost certainly have done something to assure our survival on the tiny land that remains. At this point, you must already know that the strength of the wave, as well as the lack of food, are the main problems during these calamities. However, you are going to discover that the worst-case situation when natural disasters are something we make ourselves. There are many instances of us devising means of survival throughout our history. For example, when the tsunami slammed Japan in 2011, over 18,000 people died. Moreover, those who managed to survive seemed to be disconnected from the rest of the world. In the impacted areas, clean water and electricity were unavailable, and the country's economy was adversely affected. Can you guess how the residents managed to stay alive? Well, there were no crimes committed due to the catastrophe. Everyone was very cooperative, as if they all know what mutual social obligation means. They were so disciplined that when the rescuers were giving the relief, no one moved to the front of the line. Another, due to the impact of the tsunami, thousands of ATMs were damaged and toppled along the shore, but no one tried to take advantage of the situation. No money was lost. Those traits of them assisted in saving their lives. However, this is not the case everywhere, especially when it comes to survival. In the worst scenarios, people tend to forget that they are humans and transform into animals. Take a look at this New Orleans clip. Hurricane Katrina devastated the city in 2005, flooding 80% of it. At the time, the majority of the citizens were evacuated. The lives of the remaining people were threatened not by natural disaster, but by the people themselves. For example, there are gangs that stole things on boats, gun stores, and jewelry stores. Yes, the city was engulfed by a wave of human brutality, not a tsunami. Just 2 weeks later, the city's principal priorities were food and women, just like what happened tens of thousands of years ago. It got to the point that the police could only enter the city with the help of the National Guard to restore order. I hope this video makes it clear that if we want to be prepared for a catastrophe, whether it's a flood or a different kind of tragedy, the first thing we need to do is ignite the discipline and sense of social responsibility. It's not always about who is the best to find food and water, but about respect for the life of all the people around you. You have to choose who you want to be in a circumstance like this. Would you be someone who can assist civilization in its recovery? Or are you going to be a predator who survives by preying on the weak? The truth about ourselves is sometimes only revealed in the worst case scenarios. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Please click the bell icon so you'll be notified when new videos are posted. And as always, thanks for watching Ponder This.